Hello YouTube, this is Christian coming to you with another quick knife review. This time on the table it's a Civivi Synergy 3. So usually it's not one of those knives that I would pick up in a hurry because I'm not all too fuzzy about that kind of asymmetric geometry when the knife is closed. But in this particular case, this knife was on sale and I just couldn't resist. And it has a number of features that interested me for a while. I've been looking at the Synergy line from OYoung for a little while, and that drop point blade was particularly interesting to me. Where I thought, oh well, maybe I should give it a try. So I was really on the edge, but couldn't convince myself to fork out the amount of money they were asking for. And then Civivi decided to do kind of an in-between size of the Synergy, which kind of ticked it over for me, and I said, yep, you know, I'm gonna give it a try with that one, mostly because the Synergy 2, the mini and the regular size one, the mini kind of feels a little bit small. The regular one seems a little bit too long for my EDC users, and this knife at around 3.2 inches, I believe, plate length, yeah, kind of fits the bill for what I would like to carry in my pocket. Now with trailing point knives, I do have a love-hate relationship. I love their functionality. They're wonderfully piercing for piercing applications. They're wonderful for roll and push cuts. In terms of draw cuts through cardboard, they tend to slip a little bit easier. But I kind of, what I don't like is because of the shape, they look a little bit like a Persian knife, and that's kind of looks like a murder weapon to me, or in my mind, and it might just be me, but that's just what it is for me. Other than that, I feel there's a little bit of an imbalance in terms of the shape of the knife. It's rather bulky here in the handle, and then it doesn't seem quite right in terms of proportion. The knife blade in comparison to the handle seems to be a little bit on the narrow, smallish side, but okay, that is just me. This particular knife comes in Nitro V steel with contoured and milled G10 scales. As opposed to the V Synergy, it's not an integral. It is backspaced with a G10 backspacer and has a lanyard hole here at the back. It is only right-hand carry, right-hand tip-down carry. So and at that, it's actually done well. Billboarding is at a minimum, if you want to put it that way. They put the OYoung designer name on there in the maker's mark, but other than that, there's nothing additionally marked on the blade, which keeps it to a minimum, which I like. Out of the box, this knife came really sharp. And I found Civivi and OYoung, they do an excellent job sharpening their knives. They come hair whittling sharp from the factory. I also like the little touch that they actually went down the trouble to put black liners in there. It blends in quite nicely. It's a nice touch. There's good lock bar access in this particular case. I wouldn't say great, but it is good. So you can access it with ease. So as far as your flipping action is concerned, this is really, for me, a minimum flipper tab, which is appreciated. I don't like pocket pokers. I don't like them to stick out too far. This is a beautiful size for a flipper. I like it. It's a light split kind of action. You can push flip it, so that's definitely possible. No trouble there at all, but just by the geometry of the flipper tab, or looking at the geometry of the flipper tab, quite clearly for me the engagement area is here. The jimping is done fine, and it flips beautifully. It has a certain lightness to the action, so it's not as heavy as some more premium knives, so you feel you get a little bit of that so shall I say budget knife feel. Yeah, but it is what it is, so it is a bit, feels a little bit budgety on the deployment side. As far as dropping it, you're in shakedown, so give it some time. If you have one of those to run it in, to let it settle in, and it will be a close shot action, I have no doubts about that. Civivi and OYoung are usually quite good in terms of wearing in, so that's not a big concern. You've got a flat grind on this one, I believe. On the OYoung versions of this particular knife you get a hollow ground. This is a flat grind, and as far as the finish of the blade is concerned, that's a really nicely done stonewash finish. The scales overall, I can't say that I love the pattern. Don't know what it is. It is grippy, so from a functional perspective it absolutely works. It is, I suppose, a thing whether you like it or not. That's entirely up to you, and I won't comment too much on it. I'm not too keen. It looks alright, but not something I would say, yeah, you gotta have this. It doesn't feel like that. It's not sharp by any means. It's nicely rounded off, and you can perhaps, if I get it a little bit closer, you can have a closer look at it. It's not overly deep either, but it is a nicely pronounced and contoured kind of finish on the scales. Knife stock thickness is at about 2.5 millimeters, if I can get it to focus, and for a budget knife, I have to say I'm really quite happy to see that you get a crown spine, which is not something you come across often in this price category, and was also one of the deciding factors where I said, oh well, have a look at that, a reason to pull the trigger if you like. Pocket clip nicely recessed, lovely to see that. That is always appreciated. So you have countersunk screws, and you have the pocket clip body where it intersects with your scales. You have that nicely pocketed in, so there's no obstruction, no hold up when you try to slide it into your pocket. And the pocket clip is just a standard Civivi pocket clip, nothing special about it at all, and no complaints about it either. It works fairly well, and you can see they even went through the trouble of offering a bit of a flat spot where it actually engages into your pocket. That's a nice little detail, especially on a budget knife, where I say, well, you know, as opposed to some other premium knives I recently reviewed, a little bit of thought went into that one, and that is always appreciated. As far as the knife steel is concerned, no complaints there. Nitro V is nice. It's one of the better budget steels. It wouldn't stop me from buying a knife. That being said, it is a stainless. Even though D2 is nothing spectacular these days, I have to say D2 is, if it's treated right, is really quite excellent in terms of edge retention for budget steel. And Nitro V, I don't think will quite get there. It will not be much shy of cutting performance of D2, but it will probably sit a little bit under with other advantages, one of them being it's a stainless, so you will have less issues with rusting if you're in a humid environment or a coastal environment like I am. So that's a bonus. In terms of sharpening, you will have an easier time sharpening an Nitro V steel than you will have with a D2 steel. For me, it's not too much of an issue either way, mostly because I went to diamonds a long time ago, and when you're sharpening with diamonds, it doesn't matter all too much what you sharpen, unless you get a sandrin and you have a tungsten carbide blade. You're not worried too much. So I don't mind D2, but for some who just still work with traditional stones or prefer traditional stones, D2 can be a little bit hard to sharpen, and Nitro V is then a little bit easier to deal with. And also, as far as stropping response is concerned, you would have an easier time with Nitro V stropping it up and getting it back into shape if you're out in the field and you don't have your diamond rod or your diamond sharpener with you. That is a distinct advantage over D2. So no complaints about the steel at all. I think it's actually a pretty good choice for this particular knife, and it is a budget steel, but most of us in all reality are not spending 6 or 7 hours a day with their knife. I use it on a day-to-day basis as an EDC tool, and so whether I have to sharpen it every 2 weeks or every 4 doesn't make too much of a difference to me. So in terms of usage of the knife, I don't think it should be a showstopper. Nitro V is fine. It's a good steel. So overall, I think it's a great little knife. I like it more than I thought I would, and it is. That's the other thing. It is a little bit bulkier in terms of overall thickness, albeit the blade stock itself, is rather narrow. So it's a rather thin 2.5, I think, blade stock. Let's double check on that before I give you wrong information there. Oh no, it's a 3mm. There you go, caught it. So it's 3mm plate stock. It perhaps looks a little bit slimmer than you would expect by the fact that it is ground. So 3mm, but the scales feel a little bit thicker, and while in terms of carry profile that might be a slight disadvantage, in terms of having it in your hand, you really get a nice grip on the knife. Sometimes having a little bit of a thicker handle, a thicker scale, helps a lot in terms of holding on to your knife, and makes it more comfortable, and that is certainly the case with this particular Synergy. Also, one of the things that I always appreciate, and it's quite similar on the Civivi as well, while they do not really offer you a finger choil to choke up on your knife, the flipper tab is actually designed in such a way that you can quite easily and comfortably squeeze the knife further up and get to a nice and comfortable cutting point without risking cutting into your finger. And because you're kind of pulling back on that flipper tab on an angle, it actually makes a lot of sense, and I like this about this particular flipper design, is the fact that despite not having a finger choil, and you get the advantage that you're not sacrificing any cutting edge for a finger choil, you still have a choke up point, and that is a nice little feature on a knife like this, and something that I would say is rather enjoyable and good. It adds to the ergonomics of the knife. So yeah, the Synergy, if you like the design, they're available in a Tanto and in a drop point as well, because I kind of don't know why, but I'm at the moment having a little bit of a thing for trailing point knives, which started with the Giant Mouse Jutland. I just thought I'd give it a try, and I have to say, so far I like it, and this knife comes recommended. Alright, so enjoy the rest of your day, and see you next time around. Alright, see ya.